Start looking at houses here. We've got a goal of a house somewhere around H. We have a decent amount of income coming in. That's good. How's our cash flow? We're looking for cash flow. It's getting better, but it falls here, 17,000 to 5,000. Why is that? Well, we've got a vacation here for 5 grand, and we have children at the same time. Both those hitting at the same time is troublesome to say the least. How does our cash flow for down payment? We have checking account with 18,000, savings for 6. We could sell the collectibles. We don't want to touch the 401k, but we want to add this house in here. So the question is, how much house can we buy? We want to buy as much as we can. So let's figure out how much house we can buy and then back into the rest. In addition to that, we have rent of 10,000, which is less than $800 a month. So we're not spending very much on rent now. So that's really cheap rent. So we might want to stay. So let's go down here to the bottom and start talking about qualifying for a loan, qualifying versus forwarding, F-O-R-D, forwarding a house. Okay, so let's start with the basics of income. So we want income, and our income here is, when are we looking for a house? We're looking at 143.04 gross income. So let's do 143, I said 04, that's not right. 104, okay, 143, 104. And then we want to think about it as somewhere around 28%, or let's do 28%. So this is kind of our qualifying number for the banks is 28%. So this equals the income times 28% is $40,000. And then, of course, they take out insurance out of that, and insurance is going to be, say, I don't know, maybe say $1,000 for insurance. So, in fact, let's just do this. I can do insurance 1,000, and then this is obviously 39,069.12. You wouldn't want to set it up this way, but we're just doing a quick calculation. And then 39,000 is your annual amount that's available for payments. And of course, we have to pay taxes here. So taxes, that's pre-tax payments. So let's just do monthly. So this cell equals that divided by 12 is we can pay $3,200 a month in rent based on our income plus taxes. We've got to include taxes. Taxes we're going to assume is 0.015, which is 1.5%. So we're going to have to pay taxes. So we have to subtract that out eventually. So net payment we can qualify for. So the question is, how big of a house do we want to buy? This is obviously going to get pinned on your area and so on. So the way we do that, let's just do N, I, PV, PMT, and FV. Obviously, we're looking for payment here. N, we're going to start with a 360 loan. That's 12 times 30 years. I'm just going to put 0.05 in for interest. That's a 6% loan. Present value, how big of a loan do you want? That's a good question. So let's say we want a nice house. We've got $140,000 a year in income, so we probably want at least a $300,000 house, I would think. So we're going to put $300,000 in there. Future value is 0. This 0.05 is that's 5%. We're not paying 5% per month. We're putting 0.05 per year. Where 6% a year is 0.5% per month. This is 0.5%. 0.01 would be 1%. 0.005 is a 0.5%. Otherwise, you'll get a huge number here. So this equals, and you know how to do this now, right? PMT parentheses, and the rate is there, comma, N per is there, comma, present value is there, comma, 0 is the future value, enter, 1798. So that's significantly more than what our rent is. If we go back up to our rent is $10,490, but it seems like we could afford this because it's say $800 more plus taxes. We look here, our cash flow is $17,000 more, so we might be able to afford even a little bit bigger house here. Unfortunately, it's the kids that start to creep into this. So let's just go with this now for just one version, right? So we have $1798, and then the taxes on this is so the net payment that we would qualify for. Let's make sure we do the taxes first. So the taxes equal the amount of the house times the tax bill. So we're going to pay $4,500 a year in taxes, and we take that off of what we're allowed to have as our monthly payment. So this would equal this number minus this number equals, and then this would just be divided by 12, so that should drag down. So we qualify for $2,880. Our payment is $1,795, so we should be able to qualify. Our house taxes are $4,500 based on a 1.5% property tax. Our insurance we included as $1,000. So we get some sort of numbers here on a house. Okay, so let's go back up here and start changing these things around a little bit. The first thing is we're no longer paying rent, right? So we're paying rent and a mortgage payment. So where are we doing this house? We're doing this in here, right? So this is now 17. We got to do this annually. So this is 1798. So this equals this times 12. And actually, I'm going to make a minus 12 or a minus sign here. So we come out with a positive number. Whoops, why'd that do that? Oh, it didn't take. Minus D83 times 12 equals 21,583. So that's what it's going to be every year. And so we can just go up here and say this cell here, where's our house, equals this cell. Enter. And so now we have our house payment in here. Renter's insurance, we didn't have renter's insurance. Now we have house insurance, so we're putting $1,000 in there. And then now we have to add a line in here, insert, and this is house taxes, and that goes in at $4,500. And we got the insurance, we got the taxes, we have the rent. I'm going to do rent slash mortgage, and so on. So now we have that. Now, what's interesting is this doesn't go up now. So this is a big benefit of having your house. So this goes straight across, and we get exactly the same number. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do this differently. This cell equals this cell, except we want to put dollar signs in there. So we have it the same, and it always ends up the same. And then this cell equals that cell, and so on. So our payments don't change. And this is true also of this one, although this one isn't referring to anything. So that's easy. And the house taxes will go up at inflation, so we're okay with that. So now we've got a new number in here, and we go down to our house, and we find out that our cash flow is $11,000 over. Oh, the other thing we didn't calculate in here is the down payment. I'm sorry, these numbers are wrong, so let's adjust this. We need to adjust for our down payment because we're going to put a down payment down at $300,000. We would like a down payment to be 20%. So we're going to say this is equal to this number times, oops, 0.20 equals $60,000. Do we have $60,000? No, we don't. So we're going to have to put down, let's say we can put down half of that, or 10%. So let's say we can get a 10%, we're looking for a 10% down loan, and then we'll change this to, change this to 10%. Now we have $30,000 that we have to come up with. And where are we going to come up with that? Well, this formula that I had in here, hello children. Where am I going to come up with it? Well, I'll tell you where I'm going to come up with it. I got 17,000 here, and then I got 11,000 here. Let's push the kids off for a year and get rid of them. And let's get rid of the vacation. Get rid of them. And while I'm thinking about this, let's push, if we have saved up 18,000 this year, if we push this house off one more year, we could do pretty good. So I'm going to take this out, delete this. Whoops. Before I delete this, I'm going to 21,584. Well, we're going to change that too, actually. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to take this and move it over one more year. Now we have lots of cash. Okay, so now we have $35,000 in our checking account, which is perfect because we're going to take this number and we're going to subtract the $30,000 out of it, which leaves us $5,290 out of our checking account. So we're going to rent for one more year. So the house is going to move over one, and the kids are going to, this is going to move over one, and we're going to stay without children for our house for one more year. And so that's okay. We're good with that. So all of that works. Now, the other thing we didn't do is down here under payments, if we put $30,000 down, we don't have we can either buy a $330,000 house, which I could leave alone, or you could buy a $270,000 house because you're putting $30,000 down. So I'm going to leave it as a $330,000 house, but you could easily cut it down to $270,000 and make it a $300,000 house. I bet you everybody will buy the bigger house if they can. So once again, this becomes our total payment. Since we already did it, we'll just leave it. And then here, when we get the house, here in when we're 30, we got a house. So we've got to change this to equals our house payment. Enter. And and we can get rid of the rent or the taxes that we're not paying yet. And this number's good, and we want to put dollar signs behind it, and that way it will track as we scroll across, and you can see our numbers stay the same. The taxes shouldn't move too much on you, so I'm going to leave the taxes alone here at $4,500. They shouldn't change very much at all, but they unless you change your house, they shouldn't change much. So that's pretty good. We've got our house put in here. How are we doing on cash flow? We've taken enough. We've saved up $30,000 for our down payment. We still have some cash left over, which is nice because we're going to need it. Our cash flow is a little bit negative here. Oh, that's right. We had a child. The child. A little negative for the child. We have to account for this $3,000 somewhere, but we're okay with that. So we've got the house. We had our first child, which means we probably spend even more than this. So to account for this cash flow, we're going to have another reduction into, I'm going to put in here another line. From savings checking. So I'm going to put another line in here from savings and checking, and I'm going to take some of this $9,000 that's in checking in here, and that's left over, and I'm going to go up here and make us break even. So basically, I'm going to put 3273 in here, and then this number that calculates this number will be this number and parentheses plus this number in parentheses. Oops. Sorry. This number minus this number in parentheses. This number minus this number, enter, equals 0. So, and this number, I have to say this number, 30,000 minus the money I put into the checking account. So that takes care of my checking account balance, subtracting that. I've got an additional deposit here. This expense number is offset by these, so we end up with 0. And that's fantastic. So that gets me through this year. It adds the house. I moved the kids over. You can see how you adjust, and you have all the information you need to make your adjustments for your house. So these are easy things to add to your plan, but you have to think through what you're going to do, because you can run out of money really quickly, and every month or every year you have to end up with positive cash flow, or at least close to 0, or you have to take some money out of checking, which is what I did here. This is even more important in retirement. So let's get on to the next year. We've got a negative number there in the next slide, and take this out to retirement. So stay tuned.